You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim, and these are today's top stories. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri schedules the first legislative parliamentary session since last year to approve urgent draft laws. French envoy Jérôme Bonnafont meets with Foreign Affairs Minister Gibran Bassil, FPM founder MP Michel Aoun, former Prime Minister Saad Hariri expressing the importance of electing a new president. And armed forces closing in on Mosul say they have secured about 20 villages on the outskirts of the city in an operation to retake what is ISIL's last major stronghold in Iraq. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has scheduled the first legislative parliamentary session since last year to approve urgent draft laws. Berri issued his call after chairing a meeting of the Parliament's Bureau Committee, which met after Parliament convened to elect a new secretariat. On Wednesday's agenda is a draft electoral law, a long-standing demand of Lebanon's largest two Christian parties. Lebanese Forces MP Antoine Zahra, however, expressed reservations over the session's agenda, despite his party's demands that the electoral law be included in the talks. LF Deputy Chief MP Georges Adouane told reporters that the meeting, that including the electoral draft law or on any legislative session, was a prerequisite for his bloc to attend. Visiting French envoy and head of the Africa and Middle East Department at the French Foreign Ministry, Jérôme Bonnafont, has met with Foreign Affairs Minister Gibran Bassil, FPM founder MP Michel Aoun, and former Prime Minister Saad Hariri, expressing the importance of electing a head of state for Lebanon. During his meetings in Beirut, he is also expected to meet with Speaker Nabih Berri because of the recent concerns surrounding the deadlock in cabinet. Defense Minister Samir Muqbil says Lebanon's security agencies have stepped up security in northern Lebanon in response to locals' protests over recent acts of violence. The minister said the Lebanese army has erected fixed checkpoints, set up surveillance centers, conducted patrols, and detained suspects in efforts to reestablish control and security in the Denieh district. In a statement issued by his press office, Muqbil said a number of suspects were arrested and a quantity of arms, ammunition and drugs were confiscated. The statement added that Prime Minister Tamam Slam was personally following up on the developments in the area. Maronite Patriarch Shadadahi has expressed hope that the political flurry to end the presidential void would bear fruitful results. It is time, after 2.5 years of vacuum, to elect a president for Lebanon. The Lebanese should have reached consensus over the matter during this long period, Rai said as he departed Beirut's Rafiq Hariri International Airport en route to Rome. The Patriarch denied he had met with former Prime Minister Saad Hariri, who returned to Beirut on Monday night after a visit to Saudi Arabia and France. Armed forces closing in on Mosul say they have secured about 20 villages on the outskirts of the city in the first 24 hours of an operation to retake what is ISIL's last major stronghold in Iraq. With air support from the US-led coalition government and Kurdish forces edged closer to the city on Monday, Kurdish forces announced they were pausing their advance 30 kilometers east of Mosul earlier today as the Iraqi army is pressing ahead with the next stage of the operation. The UN Cultural Agency will consider a resolution on the occupied Palestinian territories, which Israel believes ignores Jewish ties to religious sites in occupied East Jerusalem. Israel has suspended its cooperation with Paris-based UNESCO, which oversees World Heritage Sites, over the controversial resolution which was proposed by Arab countries. It refers to occupied Palestine and is critical of Israel's management of Palestinian religious sites, but it is the names used to describe key sites that appear to have infuriated Israel the most. And coming up next, blogger and illustrator Maya Zankhul is in our studios. Stay with us for the exclusive. Over to you, Yumna.
Thank you, Linda. Today we have the pleasure to welcome in our studios Maya Zankoul, a Lebanese author, visual artist, and blogger, mostly known for her sarcastic cartoons and comics published in her books and her popular webcomic blog, Amalgam. Her work has been exhibited in Lebanon and abroad, and after a recent visit to New York, Maya tried to answer the question, what makes New York a world city? And the answer came in this book. She selected 40 comparisons and decided to illustrate them and turn them into a book that shows that after all, these two cities, Beirut and New York, are somehow similar in the core. Welcome, Maya. Thanks for being here. So, you know, the first thing I thought when I read this was, yes, they are similar, but people don't talk about the similarities. They're both very cosmopolitan cities, Beirut and New York. But this is, in a way, an homage to Beirut because New York is a grand city and Beirut is underrated. Am I right?
Exactly. It's so underrated. And when you think of New York, you think it's a world city. You can find anything you want. Anyone who goes there has a great time. But when you come back here, you find that people are somewhat depressed and they're not happy with life here. But then if you think about it, there are so many similarities. So if we just change our perspective, we can start looking at Beirut differently and see that it has so much potential.
What struck you the most? At what moment did you think, okay, I need to do this because this is reminding me of Beirut, which is something not a lot of people would think about. Paris, London maybe, but Beirut?
It's actually when I came back from the vacation, and I was not looking forward to go back to everyday life. You know, it was the first vacation I've taken in 3 years, and I wanted to convince myself that I shouldn't be so sad. There are nice things in Lebanon, and then I started thinking there are actually so many things that are close to the city that I'm just coming back from and where I had a great time. But maybe I never stopped to look at them this way.
Right. I'm going to tell people, she compares Wall Street to Shari' al-Masarif, and as well the pretzel, which is sold in a lot of carts in New York, to the kaik, which is sold on the streets of Beirut. So it's interesting because not a lot of people would see that. So what do you hope to do with this book?
I'm hoping to shed light on Beirut and show that it has so many positive things that we don't see every day. And for anyone planning to travel here or to travel to New York, to maybe go with fresh eyes and have a fresh perspective on things.
Right, as well. You said this was your favorite book. I know you released 3 books. And it's funny because people criticize Beirut all the time. And you as well, in a lot of your cartoons, in a lot of your illustrations, I should say, you criticize Beirut, whether it's the waste management crisis or how dirty the beaches can be or the people. So, you know, from a critic to somebody who's finally praising Beirut, how do you do with both?
This was like a break from the criticism, and although I do criticize, I still love the city and I choose to live here and stay here and make a living here because I love the city. But it was good to take a break and look at things more positively and look at the positive things. So it was a nice experience for me, and mainly the illustrations, I did them because I had a need to draw. Like, I really enjoyed illustrating every single one of them.
I want to show our viewers a little bit about the illustrations. We have a little video for you so you can get a sneak peek of what this book has, if we will play the video. And at the same time, I wanted to ask, what did you take from New York? What was that one moment where you thought, okay, this is a lovely city and this is what I'm going to take with me? Was there like a moment that struck you? Because everybody that goes to New York is enchanted by how big it is and how grand. And
mainly it's just the energy. It's hard to describe because just walking in the street you get inspired. The energy, the people, you feel really alive there, which is again something that many people who come to Beirut feel as well.
Right, because a lot of foreigners that come to Beirut say, well, we love the energy here.
Yeah.
We, you know, this is the Paris of the Middle East. This is a pearl here, even though there are a lot of problems. And I was talking with you before the newscast about this, about you were last here 4 years ago. And since we've had so many different crises, you know, the waste management crisis, the Syrian refugee crisis, and yet you are like, no, I'm here. You created your company. We'll talk about this in a moment. And Beirut is my place.
Yes, exactly. And mainly, it's good to have success stories and show that you can succeed here. So many of my friends leave, and I consider this kind of giving up. But if you stay and live the way you want, maybe you will shape the city to be the city you love.
You created in 2013, co-founded, I should say, We Zank, the Explainer Video Studio. The team has been growing since. Wezank produced Lebanon's first animated web series in 2015, and it had a successful first season. Now they're going into the second season. Tell me a little bit about Wezank.
Wezank is basically a company that helps other companies explain their ideas. So let's say if a startup has an idea or an established company has a new product they want to explain, we create a short 1-minute video that explains what this is or what it's about. Because people are tired of reading, so when they watch a short video, they memorize, they understand in an easier way. So this is why there's a need for it.
Is this, you know, you find that videos, and especially with social media, tend to be a lot more effective generally than reading. What has been the feedback so far, other than obviously the success of the first season?
For Beirut Plus TV, it was great because it was an imaginary satirical TV station. So we would have weekly episodes that talk about a hot topic in the country, but from a satirical point of view. So the feedback was really great.
What are you, you know, when I know you didn't grow up in Lebanon, you came back, and for somebody who's, you know, who definitely is not oblivious to the realities and how bad it can be sometimes, what is your advice when you are talking to people, the people that you say are leaving, that people that have no optimism when it comes to Lebanon? I
think there's a trend there's a negativity trend in Lebanon. It's like you're almost cool if you talk badly about the country and if you focus on the negative rather than the positive. So my advice would be to just do a little exercise and try to look at positive things, because the more that you travel, the more you realize that we really have something good here with a lot of potential. But of course, we need to work on it to achieve it.
It's funny. It's just like the pretzel and the kak. It had to take New York City for Beirut to be like, okay, this is as great it's as great as it is. Do you, when you talk to people in the States and people ask about Beirut a lot, what do you say to them? Especially when they say negative things, what do you say to them that are actually opposing views?
The reactions I saw there about Beirut was either negativity or they didn't know about it. So I'm hoping this will help them understand Beirut better or see it for what it is, because it's a comparison to something they already know. So maybe they'll see a new image of the city.
It's a terrific book, and I personally like it because I just think that those two cities, they're world cities, and I do feel that Beirut is a world city, and it doesn't get enough exposure as it is, right? Just so we can remind our viewers, Maya Zankoul will be signing this book tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, Thursday, October 20th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Sursut Museum. Don't miss it. Make sure you come and get your copy and meet Maya as well. Thank you so much for being here, Maya. And on that note, we go back to you, Linda.
Thank you, Yumna. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri schedules the first legislative parliamentary session since last year to approve urgent draft laws. French envoy Jérôme Bonnafont meets with Foreign Affairs Minister Gebran Bassil, FPM founder MP Michel Aoun, and former Prime Minister Saad Hariri, expressing the importance of electing a new president. And armed forces closing in on Mosul say they have secured about 20 villages on the outskirts of the city in an operation to retake what is ISIL's last major stronghold in Iraq. Those are your top stories for today. I'm Linda Tamimna. Thank you all for watching this.